can, so we can get some folks out of here. We'll start off with the senior citizens.
Okay.
Jackie, come on.
How are you?
How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
So did everybody get the report? Any questions?
No. Good as always.
Okay.
One of the things that has been modified in the report is just showing where the location of our clients that we serve is. So just wanted to point that out for you, so that moving forward, that'll be part of the reports.
Right. And it'll change because it's by month.
Mm-hmm.
So each month you'll see, it'll probably be almost the same, but you know, you might see then Little Silver, only 2 people from Little Silver. So.
And there's no charge for anyone that comes to the senior center, right? We
No.
take all comers.
Yes, yes. What we preface, we do not pick them up. Red Bank has first preference on everything. Like our shopping trips, if they can make it to the building, then they can come. If not, we don't pick them up at their house in Little Silver, Shrewsbury, Fairhaven.
Okay.
They're all picked up in the borough.
Yeah,
If they're
they're only
resident.
picked up in the borough.
And trip, okay. If they can get to the senior center,
Then they're fine, they can get on the bus. But if we have the 18 Red Bank residents that want to go,
Mhm.
even if, say, you were from Fairhaven, Red Bank could push that, bump that one out. But,
Residency has its privileges.
yes,
I
yes.
play with that.
And you all should stop in on the 25th of this month
the
for
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving luncheon.
Mhm.
And then our holiday party, which is on Monday, the 16th, it's gonna be catered. We were gonna have like another, like maybe chicken, turkey, but it looks like we're gonna go for Italian just because everybody's probably gonna be sick of turkey and that. And then we might have that
Good idea.
for Christmas.
Good.
Any other questions?
So,
Thank you.
thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Fred, construction?
Choose you really.
Construction activity for October. There's an increase in construction activity in both volume and cost of construction, which resulted in an increase in revenue. There's also an increase in scheduled and completed inspections. Notices and orders were steady, and certificates of occupancy and approval were steady. Any questions?
Let's keep to the point. How we like.
Join up for Fred's department, we're still down that inspector as a result of the vacancy from the resignation. We've advertised for about, a month, almost 2 months now, and the search has not been very fruitful. So we're going to have to re-advertise that and see if we can get more interesting candidates.
And that's what part-time position.
Part-time, correct.
Do you think that's just the time of the year?
There are a lot of ads on there. I think a lot of towns are having trouble finding part-time inspectors.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
Tommy?
Yes.
Hello. Hello, Tony. What do you start with, Tom?
We want me to start with Councilman.
How about the fire marshal?
Okay, so obviously you have the report. We did have the division LEA operations class, so I'm trying to organize and structure the office around that method. Doreen came with me to the training, so it's good that she got in on the ground floor of it, so we're working in that direction. I did ask them to come in hopefully by March or April to do an audit or a monitoring of the office. They agreed to do that. They were trying to do it this past year, but they're running low on people as well. So they promised they'd be in on the first quarter. A lot of the hub ed for the schools, Frank's down there with the kids, and the fire department did about 1,000 kids. We started with the seniors, and we'll continue to work with the seniors, 3 other programs into December. So it was a busy month. We did start with the Gov pilot. We're actually going live with it on Tuesday when we come back for the property maintenance portion of it. Even though it's a little part of what we do every day, it's, you know, we had the opportunity to see what else it's going to be able to do for us in the future. It's a little bit easier. We all agreed to be able to use it as far as cutting down on other type of Excel spreadsheets and whatnot. We'll keep it in the future. Hopefully more stuff will get added on to it.
So I just want to add for the benefit of the council, the Gov Pilot's the name of the program that I mentioned a few months ago, I can't remember when, as being this customer service, customer service and client relationship software that's cloud-based that allows our offices to track their work orders. One of the modules that we're starting off with is the property maintenance code enforcement module, and the public will eventually be able to, through our website, submit concerns, issues that they've got in a way that they can do now, but it actually ties into the workflow on the back end. So right now, somebody goes to the website, fills out a ticket, it's just a ticket management system. There's no way of taking that ticket and translating it into an inspection, setting up follow-up reminders, issuing notices of violations, tracking what happens with court appearances and so on. This system ties those 2 components together, and all the various offices that use different kinds of spreadsheets and tracking systems will all be able to just keep that in that one location. So if a call comes in and we want to see the history on a property, we can go through there and see from different offices what's been going on the property. The goal is to expand that to other modules that they offer. Pet licensing is one of them. Vacant and abandoned properties is another one. All sorts of housing, the inspections, the COs that they do. So we're test piloting right now with the property maintenance office. They are starting to fully use it next week, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've gone through the training and everything's loaded up. So that will hopefully improve our ability to stay on top of the volume of property maintenance violations that exist. And
How
make things
many
live.
users out there for that application?
There'll be 4 of us.
We get unlimited users with the licensing though, but right now it's set up for just those 4 users. So when we add
So
modules.
it's expandable?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, because we're going to launch to mobilize the fire inspection software January. I was talking about possibly doing it this month, and gentlemen at the division persuaded me not to until the beginning, because when they do come in to do our audit, it'll be everything ESP all the way up. But we're starting to use it, but hopefully we'll get our tablets within the next month and a half or so, and give you a better idea, hopefully by July, you know, how much more efficient it is, which I'm sure it is, and give you a better depiction on how time can be better used and all that.
So it's sort of a hard rollout as well as a soft rollout?
The Mobilize, we're 2 years into, 18 months into Mobilize, tried to get it up a little earlier. We had a couple of hiccups, but which is fine, because during those hiccups, Mobilize had some hiccups too, so they got those cleared out, so
Good.
shouldn't be a big issue. Looking forward to it, for sure.
And you said there are unlimited users on the one license, or do you have to buy multiple licenses?
No, so we buy, the way it works is you buy increments of modules. So the starter package is what we have, and that gives you just this one module, the report of concern module. The next ones we can buy are modules of 3, 8, I forget the increments. And then you pick through their catalog of which ones you want to have. But the users on our end are unlimited, so we can have all the employees theoretically using it, and add council members, whoever it is.
It's really
But
similar
it's-
to the Civic Plus kind of.
Yep.
Just a little bit better, easier to navigate through, in my opinion.
A little more user-friendly?
I think so, but, you know, I will know more.
How intense is the training for this? If we were to go borough-wide with this employees?
We did 2 hours on our module, the actual one that we're going to use.
Okay.
You know, I'm sure each module is a little different. They send their engineer as well as the programmer and the marketing person as well. Marketing or the marketing person Two of them came out.
pretty
and
intuitive. It's
Spent
very
2 or 3
user-friendly.
hours with us.
Okay, great.
The only other thing is tomorrow we'll be going to the quarterly OEM meeting at the county, and it's going to be a wall. I don't know anybody that knows Task Force 1, the folks from state police that go out and they do these disasters in World Trade Center. Whatnot. They were always at Joint Base down in Lakehurst, and they're in Wall Township now, so they're right in our backyard, all their assets. So tomorrow's meeting for the county coordinators is to go there and kind of check out what they have and, you know, what's available to really anybody, but just, you know, them kind of extending themselves and kind of seeing what's in there in case we need it. So it should be interesting. Any questions?
No, thanks, Tom.
Good, thank you.
Parking?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
I'd like to start just by pointing to the numbers on the bottom of my report regarding revenues and enforcement. The revenues, of course, will always be reported as a snapshot. In this particular case, we have collections on Fridays that the last Friday of the month was not included in this month's report. So there's always a beat missing on revenues reported unless a report is due on a Monday, and then we can capture Friday's collection. In terms of summonses issued, we're to the point now where we're way ahead of summonses issued last year. In fact, if we continue at the pace we're at, which is not really draconian, we'll end up at 35% over the number of enforcement actions last year. And there are 2 real important benefits coming from that. The first is that it starts to correct parking behaviors. And that's really what our purpose is. We haven't seen 100% compliance yet, and we won't for some time because it's Red Bank and we have a history of not doing all the enforcement that we might have done. So as we continue to emphasize enforcement, we'll see improved parking behaviors. The second benefit, of course, is that there are revenues associated with parking summonses. And the parking team doesn't keep track of those revenues. They're handled by the administration. But the numbers have to be significant. So that would be my report, unless there are questions or other things I should cover.
I just wanted to know how the, with the reconstruction of English Plaza and the White Street area, how that has impacted our revenue?
Significantly. Yeah, I don't have a number to give you exactly, but it's about 110 spaces that were out of commission for a while. So that's a significant number. But we're keeping pace. We're off by probably just that much.
All right. And is that impacted by the new equipment that we're anticipating?
The new equipment, which is scheduled to come in around the 18th of this month, and it all looks pretty good as of now, will undoubtedly derive more revenue because it allows us a more efficient model for enforcement. But we'll have some hiccups for a couple of weeks till we get into it because, as I explained last time, we're converting from pay by space to pay by plate in that lot. But yeah, it will have some impact on revenues for sure.
I just want to emphasize that again, because that's going to be a very significant change in a new model for Red Bank. We're going to pay by plate instead of pay by space at the English Plaza lot,
In the law.
in that lot,
Just
Not on the
one
streets,
lot.
just
in the
for that
lot.
one lot.
Correct.
Has that happened in other towns where you do that in just one lot? Because is it going to cause more confusion?
It will cause some confusion until all the lots are converted. And there's no question about that because we're accustomed to pay at any station.
Right.
So we're going to try to correct that while the car is moving. In terms of, it's like changing a flat tire while a car is moving. But once we're up and running with all the lots, then we should have consistency, and it wouldn't matter at which station one pays.
I actually have a question or a comment. I notice I park all over the state, and different municipalities have different software programs for parking. And this one, you put a zone in, but then you also have to put a space in.
Yes. Today.
Right. So there are other systems where you don't have to include that space.
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact,
Which makes it a lot easier.
We're going from pay by space, which you're speaking to now, to pay by plate, which we'll be implementing on or about the 18th of November. in the Village Plaza lot. And then we'll follow that up with implementing pay-by-plate to replace the pay-by-space method in the other lots as we move ahead.
So the software you're using now, I think it's like the M2 Park or whatever.
M-Pay to Park, yeah.
M-Pay to Park. They also have an application where it doesn't require you to put in a space, and it'll just be by
Correct.
plate?
Every mobile app that's popular in the marketplace does it.
What would
Okay.
the phase-in timeframe, so this would just be in lots, it would never be for street spots?
Well, we don't need to use pay-by-plate for the apps on the street because the apps speak to the meters.
Correct.
So when you use a metered space and you identify yourself as parking in that space, which is a zone unto itself, then the app automatically communicates to the meter and reflects your payment. So we have one method of enforcement on-street and one method off-street. If we were to convert to pay-by-plate on-street, we absolutely would need mobile license plate recognition scanning equipment, which is quite expensive and cumbersome to use in a crowded town because of the process of capturing the images and correcting them as you go along. It works well in large, expansive parking lots like in West Windsor, where you have several hundred spaces in a lot
I
at
was just
one
wondering
time.
if there was an example of a place where they had pay by license plate in the lots, but then the meters are different on the street.
Well, West Windsor's only lots, so the example would be in Montclair,
Okay.
where a different brand of app is used in Montclair, and it not only talks to meters, but it also would talk to a scanner or a handheld device where one would do a query of a license plate and it would pop up as valid or not.
So I mentioned that because it's a big change. We have new signage that's going along with that. We're going to work on public education there. But it's a good pilot and a teaser to get people used to the idea when we roll out borough-wide. And one of the reasons why we're not rolling out borough-wide is the funding, which is one of the next items that's in here, part of the capital project. Tom had spoken about that in the past. We need a bond ordinance in order to pay for the new meters, the on-street meters that we have discussed and previewed, money for the new kiosks as discussed because of the 5G modem rollout and for this conversion to pay-by-plate, and then the parking lots as well. There was an email that showed the parking lots as concept plans designed by Laura's team, and what the potential is for the parking lots to look like. Both in terms of investing in our infrastructure, the parking lots are quite dated. They need attention, just from the surface paving, but also from an aesthetics perspective. And we did find that through the plan, through the 3 plans, we could see an addition of about 80 parking spaces or so throughout town. So if we can get this bond ordinance, if I get your approval to draft this bond ordinance for that funding as outlined in the email, then we would like to get that introduced no later than the end of this month for the November 23rd meeting, 23rd, for adoption in December. And then come December, we can, come January 2020, we can make those purchases for the kiosks, the meters, the 26th, November 26th, for the meters, the on-street meters, the kiosks, and start working on design for the design specs for the parking lots.
I forget which parking document.
So the 80 spots you mentioned are throughout town or just down at Marine Park?
No, there's going to be about 20 over on White Street.
Those are the ones that are reconfigured.
60 new ones in Marine Park and then about 20 new ones on White Street.
So 60 new at Marine Park in addition to what's already there.
Correct.
Yeah, so 77 are proposed, 12 are there right now.
Can we discuss the phase-in of that? Or is this not the time?
Of which councilman?
The parking with the Marine Park, that's going to be a phase-in? Is that?
The parking lot? No, so when I said phase-in, it's as in a phase-in of the whole Marine Park construction.
Right.
We wouldn't phase in the parking lot. In other words, the parking lot project that was proposed
Right.
would be one of the phases of the whole Marine Park project.
Right, I just think it's important for the public to understand because optics-wise, if you do the parking lot first, they're going to be like, they're never turning the riverfront part into green space. So I just think it's important that people understand the steps and why those steps are being taken in that order, and the revenue aspect of it, and, you know, a very strong beyond promise that we're not just making more parking, because optics-wise, that is troublesome.
You said it would have to be phased, right?
Not that it has to be, but I think it's a more ideal way of doing things, because if you just do if you do full phase construction all at once, you're talking about a larger price tag down there all at once. Two, if you were to go into construction, you're going to run into the issue of balancing parking. If you completely eliminate all the parking down there, where's the parking going to go? So if we can start it out this way, at least we have the parking there to make up for eliminating the parking down below when we do get into that period of construction. And the other thing is that this could, because it's part of part of our ROSI, our roster of open space, that the revenue from that, as is presently the case, the revenue that's generated down at Marine Park from parking permits and all, goes back into our recreation trust fund. So the revenues from this parking lot would go back to that, which would then be reinvested in the Marine Park project,
Right.
which would help reduce the amount that we need to bond.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted it to be said out loud, because, I mean, I think the plan makes perfect sense, but I think there has to be so much trust in what we're doing for people to really believe that we're going to add more parking and then take part of it away and not get hooked on having it. You know, it just, I mean, I'm here to, and we all want to see that part through, but
So your concern is people getting hooked on, or the borough being hooked on the revenue?
not the borough being hooked on the revenue, that somebody, that if we don't really educate the public as to why this project is being phased in the way it is, you know, that could be troublesome. Like, I really want, people really have to trust us that this is being phased in the right way and the reason why we're phasing it in.
Well, in a similar fashion to what River Center did with phasing in the English Plaza project.
Yeah, but
Because that was done in, you know, they allowed for parking on one end while they were rebuilding
Right.
the other end, and then allowed,
With
you know,
this-
for circulation while they, you know, created the parklet there in the,
Yeah.
manual court.
Yeah.
So,
But I think what you're saying is that if we do the parking, people are going to think we'll never do the
Correct.
park. But we will, and,
I think it's part of education.
yeah, and it will educate everyone. Yeah. We'll get the word out. I think it makes sense.
It does.
That way.
So is there agreement that I should go ahead and direct bond counsel, Peter and I would work with them to put the bond ordinance together?
I think so.
Okay.
Everybody agree?
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. I apologize for being late.
I'm sorry too.
Okay.
Chief?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Chief.
I love that.
What is happening?
Now look up the north.
Hey, Chief.
How's it going?
All right. So you guys all didn't get a monthly report from me yet because I just sent it to Pen within the last hour or so. So I was away for a few days. But the quick version of it is we had 26 UCR reported crimes in October, which is roughly average for the month of October.
I'm sorry, Chief, how many?
26,
Okay.
which is pretty much average. The key ones were 2 burglaries and a couple of vehicle thefts. Everything else was relatively minor. As far as positions in the police department personnel, we only have 1 vacant position right now for a police officer. That's been vacant for quite a while. While we did a background investigation and interviews, that's all been completed. A conditional offer was extended and accepted. So that candidate is ready for appointment as a probationary police officer. As of next week, November 16th, we're going to have another civilian opening in our records division. This was somewhat unexpected. One of our civilian employees resigned/retired. This was a second career for him. So he's leaving us. It gives us an opportunity to streamline that function a little further than we had initially even planned. So that should work out in the end well, just with a little bit of growing pains while we make the adjustments. But by the end, it should make the system even better than we had hoped for by the beginning of 2020.
That's awesome.
So So that part's good. You all got an email, I believe, about Stop the Bleed training. That's going to be done in the next couple of weeks to our employees and then hopefully expanded to the community in 2020. So we're going to use everybody here as trainees for us to train so that we can make sure the program runs smoothly before we roll it out to everybody. And it's good training for our employees to have. We enhanced our emergency alerting system for the schools recently after an incident in one of our schools, which turned out to be harmless, but it was a good chance for us to critique our response and the school's responses. We were able, the administrator and I worked with Civic Plus, or actually Zeke did the work, and I sat there and Civic Plus just did what it does. But at any rate, we got a better system up and running with the schools. We tested it last week and it worked great. So that in the event of an emergency, we can have immediate communication with our schools through technology instead of utilizing manpower that we really don't have to spare to make contact with our schools. And you may have seen on social media, I'm not sure if the Commissioner talked about it last time, but our cadet started, who's through Growth Through Opportunity, he's a special needs adult from Red Bank, who is working through a grant program through an organization that started in Virginia, working with law enforcement agencies to get people job training. So that may not otherwise get it. So he started with us about 2 weeks ago, and so far that's going really well. He'll be with us for, I believe, 4 months, and then hopefully we'll find a position somewhere, whether it be with the borough or elsewhere, using the training he got with the police department. So it's a good system so far.
You want to plug No Shame November?
Yeah, and with the PBA and me finally being able to bend a little bit, the PBA approached me about doing No Shave November. A lot of police departments do it, a lot of organizations do it, so we're doing it for the month. All the officers who participated, which was 30 out of 40 officers, agreed to participate, all pledged to raise money for one organization called Help for Heroes. It was formed in memory of a police officer from Oceanport who died in his 20s of cancer. So it's to promote men's health and also to raise money for this organization that gives back to police officers, firefighters, EMTs who are somehow stricken with some sort of hardship. So that's where the money's going. So if you see us look a little scruffy for the next month, it will go away on December 1st. I'm buying everybody razors. Don't worry, I'm doing it.
You can be Santa
You're
Claus.
doing it too.
Hasn't doing it too.
I do it every month, to be honest.
Oh, no. And one additional officer above the two that already retired, one additional officer announced and submitted his retirement. Sergeant Fields is leaving March 1st. He's got, I believe, 27 years on the department, so he'll be retiring on March 1st of 2020.
Thank you.
Peter?
All right. Short. We have a bond ordinance coming up, first reading for this meeting, and essentially that bond ordinance is just conversion of debt from temporary financing, bond anticipation notes to permanent financing for bonds. And we're taking advantage of low interest rate environments to extend the length of the debt or the period that we can borrow, and as well as pay off some principal, which is a good thing. There's a resolution for some accounting service help to have someone in the finance office help me with doing bank reconciliations and balancing general ledgers so that we can turn out our financial reports at the end of the year. And the other item is River Center loan that pertains to the White Street project, and it's a partnership between the city and the borough proper to finance the construction of that project. And we're just working on the details of the loan with the city.
So we've got just to clarify, so we've got a conference call this Friday, I believe, with bond counsel. That is, as Peter accurately described, loan on behalf of River Center. That was part of the agreement that was approved by the governing body a few months ago with all the easements and all the work. River Center was looking to, they were in need of about $180,000 in the form of a loan that they were going to take out for the project. But in my discussions with them, the thought was that we could take it out on their behalf with a repayment plan, that they would pay for all the costs, but that they could benefit from our lower interest rate. So it ends up saving the taxpayers of the SID some money. If they were to do it, because they don't have the extensive bond rating and debt history and lending history that we do, we could benefit from much better rates and in effect save River Center and their members some money. Is it huge? We don't know, not much, but a little bit is better than nothing. So as part of that agreement, when we were working out the construction and who would be the lead agency, one of the elements in there was that we would look to borrow that money on their behalf and put together a contract of repayment with them. And it's pretty guaranteed because they get their money from us. So, we give them their quarterly payments that we collect on their behalf. So we're not too worried about their ability to repay. So that's what the bond ordinance is for, is to effectuate that change. So bond council's been working on that, and we'll have something hopefully for the last meeting of this month.
Sure. Any questions?
Thanks,
Been great. Thank you.
Any questions for the collector on the collector assessor's reports? Think Council President wants the River Center to report? Where's your monthly report?
Jim has it.
Cliff?
How's everyone doing?
How you think?
Doing all right.
Love the hat.
What?
Do you want to borrow Heaven's hat?
I might need it.
Going to Alaska.
Temperature's going to drop by Friday.
So y'all got my report? Good to start. All right, great. I just wanted to mention to everyone that our HVAC system in this building continues to have issues. There's an issue in this room. There's an issue with especially some of the stuff on the first floor. We will be discussing that at more depth, Dee and I, and coming up with some recommendations on what we should do here.
Bigger Band-Aids?
Yeah, bigger Band-Aids.
Bailing wire?
Right, exactly.
Nice chewing gum?
We also, I want to mention we finished the little project at Count Basie Park, painting the trim, and we also did the concussion testing for the turf fields, which I think is really important to make sure everybody knows it passed, even though the fields are starting to get up in age. That's really the indication of how well we're doing, but the staff does a great job in maintaining those, and every time they come out to do some real heavy-duty maintaining, they tell us that exact thing, that our staff does a great job on a daily basis. I want to point out to everybody that we consistently do road repair, and this month again we use 2 tons of asphalt to do so. We have some streets that are a little thinner than they should be, and there's not a whole lot you can do to repair it except keep adding more, but those are on the short list to be repaired in the road program, so that's great. Brush collection is now complete. Hopefully there's no major storm that makes us do that again, but we did almost 2,500 cubic yards of brush this year, which is a pretty good amount of brush. And leaf collection starts very shortly. You start to see the piles out now. Please follow the schedule to all the residents. It's November 14th and 21st, and I know Pam has put something on the website, so thank you for that. It's on the sign as well, yeah. So please adhere to that. I know that we've all talked before. It's a big pet peeve of mine to see the giant piles of brush out, taking up parking spots and making visibility difficult.
Excuse me, November
Yes.
14th, is that for the east side?
That's the west side of
That's the
Broadway.
west side, and the 21st is the east side?
21st is the east side.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, it's the same schedule as the brush, so
Yeah.
the second and third Thursdays. And then I also definitely need to mention that we have started the transition over to New Jersey American Water. So, every year as we turn over, there's some issues with,
Smell,
discoloration and smell, yeah. And if you can just direct people to give us a call so we can track those and monitor those and make sure that they actually disappear, that's what we're hoping for, so. Any questions?
how we fix the salt, just in case.
I've got it.
It's not that there's snow, is it?
Well,
Remember
there's
last
this
year?
huge Arctic blast coming our way over the
Are
course of
there?
the next.
Yes.
Start Friday.
Yes, we are ready.
Oh,
Thanks for that question. We started to maintain, based on what happened last year, I think it was November 15th, we had our first snowstorm in town. It was one of the only snowstorms, right? We started maintaining our snowplows about a month ago, so all the snowplows should be ready to go. And we do have salt for 1 or 2 storms
Good.
and another one on the way.
Thank goodness.
Should be good.
It snowed on our leaves last year, remember?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Glenn.
That's good to hear about the fields.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to cover land use. Glenn unfortunately couldn't make it. Just want to put on your radar that council's been working, legal counsel's been working on the draft ordinances for the revisions and suggestions that were discussed at the last meeting with respect to the murals and the balloons. So the drafts will be sent again for your review when they're prepared. Glenn submitted his report. Any questions on the report? There is on the agenda an application that was submitted for a mural at 116 Chestnut. That is
I like that.
Right here.
Yep, that is done in the new form of application and with the process that we put together, but it still requires your approval. So unless there's any issues, that will be on
I
there.
brought a copy of the full application and passed it around for everyone.
116
Central building, where the train station is. It's gonna face the train station on the building.
thumbs up?
Just making sure you're aware of it,
Yeah,
that there's
it'll
no
be on the
no
next
more
agenda.
information that you need
She's,
about it.
she's local, she lives in Rumson, she's a local artist, that's nice, that's good.
There's also
Their building.
a carryover from the last meeting, which is the 5G ordinance. Very heavy stuff, dense stuff, but we do need to discuss it, and we do need to come to a decision on whether that draft ordinance is acceptable. It was reviewed by council, it was reviewed by engineering, planning, zoning, DPU. Tom and his expertise too, in his previous capacity at the state, weighed in. We looked at model ordinances from around the state. The reason I'm urging this is because when I first came up with the fact that we need to do this, there's a lot of chatter about telecoms coming to municipalities requesting 5G cells be installed. Sure enough, in the time from the last meeting to this meeting, Verizon Wireless contacted me and said that they're looking to put about 30 cells around the borough. And so I've kind of been putting them off until we can get this ordinance introduced. So I do think it's important that we get it introduced, get it adopted, so at least there's some guidelines that they have to follow and some enforcement and teeth behind what we tell them.
Can we explain one more time what we're talking about?
Yeah,
In a
please.
pinch,
Yeah.
Yes, Glenn
On
can explain
camera.
it, but
Pardon?
people.
Glenn's not here.
No problem. So 5G is the next evolution of wireless telecommunication. Whereas 3G and 4G, you see these giant repeater antennas on buildings and all. The intent behind 5G rollout by these telecom companies is to introduce smaller cells more frequently. And the thought behind that is it would increase speeds with this new technology and also increase coverage and increase the bandwidth. So more devices at higher speeds with more connectivity throughout the geography. In order for them to do that, they've got to locate these, and where they're looking to locate them is on utility poles where they do exist, and on newer poles at their expense with our standards that we implement by things like this ordinance, and to roll it out. There are some preemption concerns, preemption being that the FCC regulates the telecom industry and has given their approval to these things being rolled out. Where we have jurisdiction, and I'll leave it to Greg, is it, or?
Yes.
To Andrew to explain, is where our jurisdiction comes in with respect to regulating the land use end of things, permitting, construction, the inspections, and such. So this is the future. It's coming. It's going to be all over America eventually, and this is what's going to allow cities to be smart cities, smart cars, better connectivity, cameras, Wi-Fi hotspots, all this stuff all over the place. And in order for us to be able to regulate them, we need to have an ordinance in place. There's a lot of people that are concerned that much like cell towers being installed in places and antennas everywhere, people are concerned about the health benefit, the health effects, and that's really not our purview jurisdictionally. The courts and the FCC have made many rulings and statements on the limits of our ability to get into that territory. Andrew, do you want to comment?
I mean, the comment is, well, we'll have to draft the ordinance that'll be specific, as he said, to the jurisdiction of, who controls, utility poles and who controls the product that they're putting on, which is these 5G, I guess they're smaller cells.
They're called, small cells is what they call them.
Right, so I see that the next meeting is the 13th. I don't think we'll have the ordinance drafted in time for that next meeting, but by the following meeting, we'll have a draft for your review. We'll be looking at Verizon's proposal and working in conjunction. We've done this in other municipalities that we do represent, and we can draft that, according to what we've done with these other utility companies, or Verizon Wireless. I forgot the other cell phone companies we've done these ordinances for.
Would there be a hold harmless in there in the event that down the road they found out that 5G technology impacted, and then the borough's left holding the liability bag?
Well, that's the thing is everyone's scared as to if there's anything that's radiating from these these cells, or if there's any sort of harm.
Right?
Absolutely.
That was a concern with like 3G and 4G as well, right? Was that always a concern every time there's a...
Well, anytime that there's a cell phone tower, people are concerned.
3G technology being as concerned, but this is a more powerful methodology, and I know other major municipalities have gone to it, but I just want to make sure that from the borough's standpoint that we have a
it would be indemnified.
So on Scientific American, which I just pulled up, a 2019 review of environmental levels of RF signals, however, did not find an increase in overall levels since 2012, despite the rapid increase in use of wireless communications, in part because of, quote, improvements in efficiency of these technologies to improve power controls of all emitters. So what I'm reading in Scientific American is there is a group of people with concern. There were a large group in Europe that came out against it, but there is little to no evidence thus far that this is more harmful than, I don't know, I'll read more science. I like reading.
Exposure.
Yes,
right.
so.
Yeah.
Over time.
So the draft ordinance does include elements of, as part of the application, they've got to provide that indemnification, Councilman. We also, in the draft ordinance, require them to provide insurance, bonding, all sorts of things. And that's why we need the ordinance, because right now they were to come here and say, we want this. We have no way of saying this is what we need and being able to enforce against them and to be able to hold them accountable to that stuff.
That's why we've delayed them coming to the table as well, so that we can prepare this ordinance so that when they come, we're fully protected, absolutely.
So looking to put up, you stick 30?
Yeah, they gave me a map of about 30 small cells that they're looking to locate throughout the borough.
Okay, and we have no say, the council has no say in where they go, or any restrictions on where they go?
There can be restrictions if it's based on certain land use regulations, but it's
pretty difficult.
Yeah.
To deny them to utilize a utility pole.
Okay.
If there's no utility pole there and there's nothing there and they want to place a new structure, then we do have the ability to regulate that. One of the things that Glenn's been working on is getting some input from HPC as to what are these poles going to look like, right? In certain areas. So there are stylistic and certain aesthetics that you can try to implement, but not in terms of the location if it's on a utility pole that's already approved.
We did go through something not similar, but with the monopoles. Remember they had the monopoles that they wanted to run across the river for the power lines, and all of it. There was a lot of pushback from the ridge. So I just want to make sure that if there was a pushback, that
but that
we're
was
covered.
that was different. It was affecting a lot of municipalities.
In most countries, they have this technology already, but the one differentiating factor is that you can change the actual level that's being emitted. So, for example, Paris, India, Belgium, they all adopted a lower level to be safe than what the FCC standard is, but the FCC standard does match the majority of countries that already have the existing technology. But Paris, India, Belgium, and a handful of other places opted for a lower level than the FCC standard,
Well,
just
it
to
is-
be safe.
Yeah, I think safety's our.
So it's an
main
interesting
concern.
conversation.
Because we don't know what this technology, the exposure to it is going to be over time.
So a couple of things we have coming up on the next agenda. There was some concern about our business licensing section of our code is very outdated. We haven't really looked at it in years since things came out. So Greg's been asked to look at that and make an amendment to update it.
Which one is that, chapter 430?
Yes, it requires citizenship. So we just really, I mean, the entire thing really needs to be reviewed, but that section needs to be taken out as soon as possible. Just to
Do we have, we can't open business?
There'll also be a resolution for a liquor license transfer. There's a
We just get it.
license that hasn't been attached to a property. It's formerly held by Heritage Liquors and Sickles Market bought it, and they're going
The liquor
to be
license
attaching it to
transfer.
their properties.
They're
Yeah.
having trouble hearing.
I'm sorry. There's going to be a resolution to transfer that liquor license to that property because they're going to be opening soon.
It was Heritage Workers and now it's Sickles.
And there's also going to be a resolution that most of the clerks are being asked to, well, most of the towns are being asked to consider to call for a study commission on the Oprah statute, because as you've been seeing from my reports, clerks everywhere are just being inundated by Oprah requests, and it just really needs to be
Senator
revised.
Martin
It's been in
definitely
existence
has
for a
point.
decade now, and it just, or more, but more than, but anyway, it just really needs to be revised. So they're calling for a study on it, and so every town is being asked to consider this resolution to call for this study.
Who's doing the study, I'm sorry?
It's just calling for them to conduct the study.
Senator Little
It's just- There's no action being taken, but we're just supporting the call for a study.
Yeah, it's well written, that standard resolution, and it
Yeah.
talks about how, Oprah is important, how we understand the need for transparency,
Right.
but how the way it's happening now, the amount of hours and taxpayer money being spent for you to find it.
It's being abused, I
Correct.
think, yes. So, and
Yeah.
I did send a sample to everybody, I'll plug in our numbers and whatever, but it's just statewide. And then I also, on the agenda, I've just listed the dates for the remaining council meetings of the year. Just keep in mind, the second meeting in November is on a Tuesday, because our meeting date would have been the day before Thanksgiving. And then two additional items that weren't on the agenda. I just want to really quickly touch on last night's election results. I just want to remind everybody that there's a new law that requires them to count mail-in ballots received up to 48 hours after Election Day, as long as they're postmarked. So those are still coming in. Those are, they said, would be counted by Friday. And there's a lot of provisional ballots out there, because everybody that got the vote by mail ballot that didn't send it in, that went to the polls, had to vote provisional. So those will be counted by next Tuesday. So they won't be able to certify the election sometime next week. So there's still votes being counted. And then the final item is I was contacted by the middle school, and both their boys soccer team and their girls soccer team won their championship. The girls is the first time in the history of the school, and they're going to be coming to our meeting on November 13th for certificates. So I think that's it.
Under admin, two resolutions. One is the routine annual resolution to adopt the fair and open process for your 2020 professional service contracts. It'll follow the same format as it has in years past. Any questions or concerns about those? Okay. And the other one is an agreement with a joint insurance fund. Which one yet we don't know. One of the things that we've discussed about in the past is shopping our insurance. This is for our general, our liability, our property, all that, not health. So we're part of the Monmouth JIF right now. One of the exercises that our broker undertook, that I've been working with, and all the departments have been helping, is to submit applications for quotes to some other JIFs to see if we can get better pricing. We expect those quotes to be arriving sometime by the end of next week, the latest hopefully, so that by the end of the year we can make a recommendation to you as to which JIF to proceed with, whether it's our existing JIF or a new JIF.
Okay.
So it's just sort of price check.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Comparison shop.
If we find out that our insurance, our existing company is giving us, our existing JIF is giving us a good rate, then awesome. We've done our due diligence on behalf of the taxpayers. And if we find something better, then great. And I just want to note that it's also not entirely just about the price tag, but there are other factors to consider, such as their reserves, their financial liquidity, all the reporting that they go through and underwriting to make sure that in the case of some major catastrophe or any legal issues, that we're adequately protected by the JIF. So a recommendation will come to you soon.
Yeah.
And a grants report was received. I do want to note that we did get 2 more grants, bringing our total to about 1.5 million, which is great. And our grant writer is doing a wonderful job, also with the help of all the department heads. There's 2 items on discussion. Do you want to?
All right, I guess the wildlife habitat program, I mean, the mayor brought that up at our last meeting, so you guys want to just push that for discussion when he's here?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so we'll carry that. And then the trolley RFP.
That's actually the animal welfare.
committee.
Yeah.
They're pushing that, they're behind that.
Yeah.
Animal welfare.
And I know they met with the Shade Tree Committee first, and then, Shade Tree Committee said, like that they would be coming to meet with the Environmental Commission as well, because there's a lot of crossover there. I mean, a lot of the points and grant money that's available in Stable Jersey.
They're all interconnected.
It's all interwoven, yeah, so.
Yeah, but
that
the animal welfare wants to run with it, again, and I spoke to this at the last council meeting, Anna Cruz brought it to the animal welfare committee and talked about it, and they asked me to bring it to you guys for consideration.
Yeah.
So they would like to run point on it and just want to get our support to, give them the go-ahead.
If Anna Cruz can meet with the Environmental Commission, like they met with the Shade Tree Committee, it would be helpful, because there's a lot of crossover there in the point system, and, I mean, yeah, it's great for them to take lead on, but it would be great for them all to work together.
So, if you guys are comfortable with it, we can certainly move it forward. Because I spoke to the mayor about this and speaking to this at this meeting. But if you want to bring the mayor in, I think he's 100% behind it. And I don't know what more you can add, but that's up to you guys.
What did Shade Tree say?
They said you should bring it to the Environmental Commission, because it's an environmental initiative, and most of ECs work with their animal welfare committees on wildlife.
Does it benefit us,
projects.
Kate, in terms of sustainable Jersey?
The chair, Nancy Black, was looking at it, and she said that there are certainly points and things that could benefit if it was the animal welfare committee and them working together, so. It would just help.
Just to be on the safe side.
This,
No.
It brings consensus.
Right, I'm just saying the animal welfare brought it
Right.
to us,
Okay.
and they would like to run with it and work with whatever
Yeah.
other committees need to.
That'd be
Yeah,
perfect.
that's perfect.
All right, then the other one is a trolley RFP. As a parking committee, we asked Tom Kalu to draft some RFPs for a trolley to go around town, so.
Would that be sponsored by somebody? Or?
That's the hope. The hope is to have it sponsored by some of the businesses, and they can fund it, so it's easy for people to get around town. It's an RFP.
We had one once.
Yeah, exactly.
Are the scooter dudes still around?
They're around, but not as much. I don't see them around as
I
much.
haven't seen it in a while.
But this is an RFP, put it out there, see what responses we get, and if we get something good, we can run with it. If not,
And is
worth
this
a
something
try.
that we run all year, or?
That's going to be up to for their proposals.
Yeah.
Would it be against them?
We would think that it would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when the big
Yeah,
time periods
yeah.
at night are, but,
Because I didn't know if it was going to be seasonal or
yeah.
whatever.
And do we have a predefined route for them, or we're waiting for them to come
Yeah,
back?
I think we're waiting to see what they.
Conceptual.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the benefit of it would be?
To allow for more areas of parking to be utilized, so people don't have to walk, they can hop on a trolley, get taken to downtown, the Broad
The trolley
Street,
goes pretty
back-
far.
Yeah, then the
Yeah.
trolley can go bring them back to the train station, or,
And we're looking to try to get someone to sponsor it, exactly?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so just by way of engineering updates, we have been coordinating, as I've mentioned in the past, with JCP&L and ultimately the completion of East Bergen Place. We now think that we have some level of agreement there, but due to the availability of asphalt, Lucas does not anticipate mobilizing until March. At that point, they would start with the work at the lift station and then complete with the paving operations.
I'm sorry, was that on East Bergen?
Yes. So the asphalt plant's closed, so they wouldn't be making it. So it does, in theory, make sense. It's just another delay in essence.
So what asphalt place?
They closed.
The asphalt place is closed. They don't like November 15th is usually the cutoff. And having said that, we are also working with JCP&L because there has to be a guy wire relocated to another pole, and they have indicated that they intend to charge us for that, so we're advocating for us not to be charged, and so we're still working that route with them as well.
That's a good position to take.
As it relates to our most recent road program, the mill and overlay, that was completed last week. They had a couple of sections that they added, that's done.
Where are you talking about?
McLaren.
Right around there.
Yeah,
Okay.
they added a piece of
Yeah,
Wernerly.
yeah.
That's now complete. We'll go through the punch list and close out of that project.
Looks good.
As it relates to the White Street improvements, so we had approval of the planning document. We posted and advertised that. EIT has come back to us now. As they're going through the design, they may request some modifications to the planning document. That will be a non-issue. We also do have their first round of design comments, which we're addressing. Once we have their concurrence, as you may recall, it also has a DOT grant for the roadway. So once we have EIT's concurrence, we'll submit to DOT, as they tend to really have minimal comments. But that project is, on course. I think it needs to be awarded by February, and it looks like we'll meet that deadline. As it relates to East Side Park, that contractor has been given his punch list of work that needs to be completed. It includes landscaping installation, restoration, cleanup. I'm happy to report that I received pictures of the pre-manufactured building today. It is actually being built. It is not there yet. It is still being built.
It's still in the factory.
It's still in the factory, but there's at least an image of a building that I'm happy to share.
So
Hopefully it'll fit.
It's not that bad, is it?
what is the anticipated, deadline on this? When it will be finished?
As was indicated in the past, he's outside of his contract time, and we're able to assess liquidated damages, which I'm sure we'll exercise the right to do in this particular case. It's just a toss-up. We've reviewed with Greg the ability to throw off. We've modified the scope. We've had the bonding company involved. We have the same conversation with him every single week, and it's, I need this done, get it done. So.
Because residents are, who live around there, they're very unhappy about it.
Understood, and,
Yeah.
Honestly, they're gonna have to wait for the building to come in too.
Bruises on it,
Yeah, and the building still has to come in, so there's still some level of where that site would be active, but we're trying to get as much out of the contractor we have as possible.
But they're not doing the building.
They are not doing the building. We took that outside of the scope.
They never get done.
It would not have been ordered. We would not have had pictures.
Yeah, and so we've reduced what amount they're getting then.
That is correct. We've changed the scope of their
Yeah.
project. We've taken quite a few of the items out. And if we continue on this course, we may then have to look again into the legal measures of the bonding company. The first round is that the bonding company would be able to have somebody else remobilize. That would be the first line, but, if we may hit that point again.
This could go on for a while.
Gotta turn this L into a.
We'll just keep our fingers crossed.
Yes.
And your toes.
My goodness.
The updates on the senior center.
So,
Okay.
there's a discussion that's going to be held in executive concerning
yeah.
the contract negotiation. So I think it's best if we can hold on until that conversation, Councilman.
That's
Which
essential.
is why Laura went last, so that way she can hang around for that,
Okay.
that executive session.
Thanks, Laura.
Discuss about court. Anything to discuss about court?
Someone else
Any correspondence?
did hers.
No.
I think I will last.
Public comment, Parks and Rec, I know Charlie's not here, but can we have?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, his report was there. I did touch on the grants from his report. I meant to mention those, but any questions on that?
No, just
There is-
remind everybody about Veterans Day.
As Councilman just indicated, November 11th, Monday, 11 a.m., Veterans Day. Everyone is invited. We'll be putting on a program as we do in previous years. It'll take place at the corner of Monmouth. If there's inclement weather, we will relocate to the Elks Building. So that's 11 o'clock,
On the
11 o'clock.
11th day
on
of the
11th.
11th month.
Exactly.
At the 11th hour.
Exactly.
In Compiègne. That's where we signed.
All right, public comment, anybody?
No.
All right, seeing none, motion to close,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And we're adjourning to exec, right?
All right.